As Emma said, I am the course director for the genealogy program, very ably backed up by a large number of tutors on the course. I think we have right around over 20 tutors on the course, many of whom work as professional genealogists and help with students part-time, which is great because it brings their professional knowledge and experience to bear. There is a core tutor team, though, who are more focused on the course, like myself. So please do email me, get in touch either directly, or the Scotia address here also wraps in our program administrators, and they are amazing at knowing all sorts of ins and outs about the course and the admin side of things. So between one of us, we'll get your question answered or pass you on to somebody who does know. So let's see, I want to share some key facts about the university. Just won't spend too much time on this, but it's an older university that's grown out of lots of other educational organizations. And what I really like, and actually what chimes really well for genealogists, I think, is that Strathclyde is known as the place for useful learning. And genealogy is definitely useful and practical. And at Strathclyde, we also bring in sort of the academic side of genealogy too, particularly as you progress along the course and go into the diploma and dissertation section. So just some awards that the university has received, and a fairly broad back and forth between female and male. I have to say that, as with most genealogists, our student base is primarily female, although we do have a good, strong cohort of men as well. So, and we have students on the course from around the world, primarily UK based, but a strong number of people from North America, and Australia, Canada, and New Zealand as well, with folks scattered across the other areas of the world. But primarily seems to be places, I suppose not terribly surprising, with the British diaspora, because we primarily focus on British research and then add other things on. So that's who our course appeals to. I just want to point out a couple of important student facilities. And these, I'm going to talk about the online offerings that these facilities have to offer. Obviously, if you're an on-campus student, which none of you will be because the course is entirely online, there's a whole range of you could go into the library in person and those kinds of things. But thankfully, the library also has a really strong collection of different subscriptions, online subscriptions to different journal databases, books, and so on and so forth. And on the reading list, we've really worked with the library to try to offer as many online versions of the books on the core reading list as possible. Now, it's not always possible to add those into the library, but where we've been able to, we have. So once you're a registered student, you will receive access to the library's systems. IT, there's a good amount of different types of software that you can download and use as a student. So there's information that we'll be sending out soon that links you to the website that has a list of different software options that you can download. If you're a student with disabilities, either learning or physical, if you're needing some backup with your well-being, the university has a really active and strong service to support people who maybe have needs with learning facilities and things like that. What I would say is if you are a student who feels like you're going to need this type of support, then do reach out to them early in the a year and get your get a meeting booked with them, and that's really helpful. Again, so I'll be sending out some welcome information to students in the next, I'm hoping in the next 10 days, and we'll give some contact details for these different services in that. And then finally, there's a study skills service, which they help students with writing and study skills as well. And one of the folks who works for them always comes along to help support the diploma and dissertation level students in really focusing on academic writing skills. But they're good if you are needing some backup on, how do I focus? If I'm coming back to work, back to study, what's a good way for me to shift back into studying, things like that. So that's a really good facility. So now I just want to say something. I'm going to hold, get the Q&As off of here. I was going to just hold all the questions until the end in the hope that I might answer some of the questions, and then I'll come back to them. So I can see there's questions coming in. So what the course focuses on, what you'll study. So in the certificate, which is the first 60 credits of the full master's degree, it's really focused on British research and records. So what we try to do is give you a breadth and a depth of skills in using those and understanding of why they were created in the first place, sort of some of the issues around using them, really focus on research techniques, research planning, how to communicate your results to clients, both using family tree software and also the written word. And then there's a focus on genetic genealogy as well. Really, we're not expecting anybody to be an expert in genetic genealogy after the course. We just don't have time for that. But what we're aiming to do is give you a basic knowledge of genetic genealogy. And then if you're interested in it, there are opportunities for you to go further into that realm. Also, big focus on referencing. And we use our own referencing style for the course, and ethics. Just a sort of broad range of different skills and knowledge that you'll be exposed to in the certificate. On the diploma level, then we start rolling out into other areas of the world. So Australia, New Zealand, US, Canada, the old British Empire, but also different time periods. So looking at some medieval research and a further look at genetic genealogy in more focus at this level. This is really about a refinement of skills, communication skills, and other skills as well. And this is where you start getting into sort of more, I suppose, full-on academic way of thinking about genealogy with a research project that's it's basically a mini dissertation. And then if you're interested in moving on and doing the full master's degree, then the final 60 credits is the dissertation itself. And that's a topic of your choice. So it needs to be genealogical in focus, but it's often something that includes elements of social history, regular history, demography. I'll talk more about the dissertation in the course of this presentation. So everything's online. There's no in-person classes or places that you have to be. Typically, we hold a 2-day in-person event in November where we go have students come. It's totally optional. Come to Glasgow and Edinburgh. We go and visit archives and things like that. It's a great way to meet people and tutors. But last year, and I think this November as well, that's going to be a virtual event because of the restrictions around COVID traveling and just the challenges with for this coming November, with the university still having lots of spacing requirements. So I'm pretty sure that's going to be a virtual 2-day event on the 15th and 16th of November, but you'll get a lot more information on that. So, you know, that's all going to be recorded. So if you can't take part on the days, you can watch the recording. So, the course materials are released on set dates. So there is a timetable to work to. And as I said, in the next, I'm hoping 10 days, I'm going to start sending out the student handbooks, the referencing guides, and lots of other background information that will help you know when the dates are, when things will be due, and things like that. So you log on to an online learning environment, and the learning environment that we use is based on an open source platform called Moodle, but the university has its own flavor of this, and it's called My Place. So you receive a log on to this, and every course has its own My Place space that you access. This is where you download the course materials, information on the assignments. We have a lot of written documents that give lots of information about the particular topics, with learning activities that you can choose to do, suggested in the written materials. We also have usually very short recorded presentations that you can watch. Those are often either screen sharing, so we'll be talking about different databases and showing you how we use particular databases, or very short PowerPoint presentations where we might talk about, you know, Latin numbers, or how to approach referencing, or, you know, those types, you know, areas what we find students can need more backup with, and usually have questions about. So the course is largely set up to be asynchronous, and that means we don't have set times, set lectures that you have to attend real time. And that's true for everybody except for the full-time students, and I'll talk about that in a minute. And that means that our course is able to be taken and easily accessed and done by students who work, students who have families, caring responsibilities, are in different time zones than the UK, and just means you could be up at 2 in the morning doing your course work and that kind of thing. So yeah, it is largely asynchronous. It's been set up that way from the beginning, and seems to work fairly well in that regard. So as I said, full-time students are the exception here, and we do have a number of real-time mandatory sessions for the full-time students that take up some of the assignment and assessment load. Some of the assignments, well, the assignments in particular, have been pared back for the full-time students because they are required to do the real-time sessions. So and full-time students have been emailed out about those, so you know when those are going to happen. Yes, so the real-time chat sessions, we do offer these on the part-time and the modular versions of the course. So it's not that they don't happen, it's just that you don't have to attend them. And we do record them. So if you aren't able to attend in person, you can watch the recording. And what we do is for both the part-time and the modular students, in the first couple of weeks of the course kicking off, is we have a questionnaire up that asks you to tell us when the best days and times are for you, and based on the needs of the cohort, then we set the dates and times across the year so you can plan for those and know when they happen. So we almost always end up having, so for the part-time students, for each of the sessions, we run them twice, and once we almost always have in the evening UK time, which means that people who are working during the day or are on different time zones, like in the States and Canada, are able to attend those. But other ones, they'll tend to range from the morning or the afternoon, depending on what students have told us. So And we'll mix the days up and the times for all the sessions. So hopefully throughout the year, there will be at least one that you'll be able to attend in person. So, as I say, they're optional for the part-time and full-time, part-time and modular students. And they cover things like using Family Tree Maker in depth. That's the software that we ask you to use on the course. Copyright. I'm trying to think of, we have a genetic genealogy session that we run. Ranking on the other ones. As I said, there's 6 across the year for the part-time students and 6 for the modular students as well. So for each module, there's for the cert students, there's a session that's run. And we also do occasionally have outside experts come in and do like a big talk or presentation for all of the students across all levels of the course. And you would be told there's a My Place site that all students on the course are enrolled in. And this is a great place to get, I suppose, a kind of a sense of the larger student community, but also to find out the big things that are happening across all of the different levels and years. So yeah, like we've had Johnny Pearl come in and give a talk. Just various other people come in and give talks. So yeah, again, those are always recorded. So if you can't catch them, you can watch them later. And we do use Zoom as our platform now, so which seems to be working fairly well for most folks. So, okay, so I know as you've applied, you've chosen your various option to come into, but sometimes students put in an application for the wrong thing, or they don't quite understand what it is that they've chosen. I know it's quite complex because there's so many options available, but the modular version of the course is around 14 hours a week. It's really flexible and you can take time off. One of the issues with this is it's not covered by student loans for most of the UK countries. I think there's one UK country that does cover student loans. I think it might be Northern Ireland, but you'd have to look on their website for that. There's also the part-time version of the course, which is a 3-year version. So you take the certificate, first 60 credits in the first year, the diploma in the second year, and then the dissertation in the third year. And you can stop at any point. So if you just wanted to take the certificate, that's fine. You could just, after that first year, you could exit with that 60 credits under your belt. You could come back in the future and complete the diploma if you wanted to. So even though you start that, you don't have to. We won't force you to go all the way through the dissertation if you don't want to. And if there's a bit of mix and matching that can happen. So if you're taking the part-time certificate, so that's the one in 1 year, and you think, well, actually, I want more time to do the diploma, you could switch over and do the modular diploma version, which would take basically 1.5 years. So you'd give you more time to work on the diploma instead of just doing it in a year. Now that assumes that you're not getting a student loan and thus being forced to do either the part-time or the full-time version. And then the full-time version is the most compact, compressed option. Lots more hours per week on average. Now, all of these are averages. I do find that, depending on what you know about that particular topic that you're looking at the time, what else is going on in your life, you may need more or less hours per average across the year. The full-time version is 18 months. Then it's the certificate and the diploma in the first year, and then the dissertation in the second year. The full-time students don't do the diploma final project, and there's just not time for that, but we make up for that by having you do other things in the diploma and making up that workload in other ways. So, okay. Go on to this. So what you'll need for the course we require you to have a worldwide subscription to Ancestry or access to the library subscription to Ancestry. Say if you work in a library, then that's fine. But a lot of our assignments and assessments, we base them on Ancestry and what's findable on Ancestry. So that is definitely a requirement to be able to do those assignments and assessments as we know them properly. So it's not, anyway. Family tree software the one that we support on the course is Family Tree Maker. And we are based on Windows. So that's the version of Family Tree Maker that we really support. There is a Mac version. There are some issues with the Mac version, and some students do use the Mac version, and it's certainly possible to do the course with a Mac. Absolutely, but you just have to be aware for Family Tree Maker in particular that there's some workarounds that you'll need to be aware of, and we have these sort of ideas and guides. If you are using the Mac version of Family Tree Maker, here's what you need to know. We have reached an agreement with Matt Kiev, who are the current creators of Family Tree Maker, to offer a free copy to the incoming students. So we can only offer, once you register, we can start sending those out to you. So, and we'll email with you download it. So Scotland's People credits as well. We do use Scotland's People on the course, and we every summer reach out to the National Records of Scotland and ask them if this year, if they will again provide a number of free credits to the students. They've never said no, so I can't see that they would be saying no for the current year. But it's usually 300 credits, and I'm waiting to hear back from them at the moment about that. So if you run out of credits and you find you need more to do the coursework, then you'll need to buy more credits. And whether you'll need more depends on some of the options that are available to you in terms of assessment. So if you want to choose the Scottish options, then you may very well find yourself buying more Scotland's People credits. And Find My Past subscription, we do find that the Plus subscription is helpful. It's not totally necessary, but because Find My Past now has so many, what's the word I'm looking for? Parish records, and also the newspaper archives as well, that can be quite helpful on some of the assignments and assessments, but it's not totally necessary. So anyway. Okay, so assessment methods. On the certificate, it's largely practical assignments and assessments, and we set the families that you look at for these because we need to know what it's possible, what you should be finding, basically. So it's a real mixture of Scottish and English. There's some Irish research as well, and a touch of American and Canadian, but it's primarily English and Scottish, some Welsh in there too. And the first three summative assessments on the course, you're using Family Tree Maker to create family reports and trees. There's also other types of written work that we ask you to do. So one of the options is to do a client report. So that's a written client report. There's a lot of paleography, so transcribing records and getting your head around old handwriting, which can be a real challenge for some students, we find, and the real key with paleography is to do a little bit quite frequently. So we suggest that as you go along the course, you do a little bit very, very often. And we kick off the class with a segment on paleography to get you started with that. So as I said, we do assign families to research. There's 12 pass-fail assignments and 6 summative assessments. And the assessments are marked 1 to 100. And with all of these, if you fail, I suppose, if you don't get it quite right the first time and need to do it again, that is possible, absolutely. Sometimes students just don't quite understand what it is we're asking for. And, you know, they just don't give us what we've asked for. So we just ask you to do it again. And the same thing with the assessments. Although if you do fail an assessment for the first time, you get lots of feedback, and then you can submit again. Your mark is capped at 50 for that second submission. So we do pride ourselves in giving a lot of feedback on the course, and our external examiner is always saying, you know, it's a useful, good amount of feedback that we provide. So I would just say, you know, look at the feedback that your tutor is giving you and use that to make your work better in the future. I would say probably most everybody gets at least one piece of work returned to them to look at again. I certainly did when I did the course, and that was frustrating and maddening, but I took a deep breath and looked at the feedback and said, yeah, no, I didn't get that right. You're quite right. I didn't look at the right thing. So went off and had a look, and sure enough, there it was. So yeah, it's a learning curve. I mean, all of this it's, you know, everybody's always learning in genealogy, and that's actually one of the things I love about it, is there's always more to learn. So diploma, this is really a mix of both practical projects. So like the certificate, you know, we'll ask you to, you know, find out, you know, X, Y, and Z about a particular person, and come back and tell us what you found. But then there's also a number of smaller research projects for which you can choose the topic. So like there's one you can choose to do a consideration of a house or a building, and that's really focused on the people who are involved in that house or building. So that's I think it's 2,200 words, somewhere in that. A written report. We're using both secondary sources and primary sources to create a written report focusing on the building and the people. There's another one you can do. There's a client report. So you find somebody to work with as a client, do up to 21 hours worth of research, and then write the client report. And then the other one's a migration etude. So you find a migration event, so a family or an individual, a group of people who have emigrated or immigrated to a country, and talk about that research journey and the records that you've used to learn about that research journey and what other genealogists would want to know about those records. So, and then there's the final project, except for the full-time students. And the final project, you choose the topic of that. It's 5,000 words, and it's more than just researching a family. So it's looking at a larger question, and how can genealogical research help answer that question? If there's a set of records that you want to look at, how valuable are those for genealogists? So there's a lot of different things that you can work on with the final project. We give lots of ideas about different topics, but it needs to have a bigger research question involved, rather than just, you know, who was so-and-so's ancestor. It's, you know, how did I'm just thinking of some of the ones that some of my students have done this year. One of my students has looked at the 1901 and 1911 censuses in County Mayo, and she had noticed that there was a good number of people who were born in Scotland in those censuses. So she did a project and looked at who those people were. You know, why were they there? What was the demographics? What was their age and sex and occupation? And then did some case studies to try to find out about familial relationships, and you know, why were they in Ireland when so many people from Ireland were going to Scotland? Why were they doing the opposite thing? So, and then the dissertation, which is the final the final, I suppose, icing on the cake. And that, again, is a topic that the student chooses, but it needs to fit our requirements for the genealogy department. So it must have partly a genealogical focus, as well as other foci that you can choose. So these often tend to be historical in nature, social, local, economic history, with a large element of genealogy mixed in. So genealogy research techniques, focusing on families, individuals, but again, with a larger question that you're answering. So, and we give a lot of support on figuring out what it is, what would work. So yeah, just following on from that, for these, as I said, there's lots of advice given by the tutors, and we have written materials that help you understand what it is that we're looking for. And as well, you can look at a lot of examples of previous student work too. So for these, you're offered one-to-one real-time meetings, and then we review drafts that you've written, and so on and so forth. So there's quite a few videos that we've created, and real-time sessions as well that are offered on thinking about what your topic is, how to scope your topic and your project, doing a literature review, and there's the whole process of doing that type of research. So for the dissertation itself, the full-time students have 6 months to really focus on the dissertation, and part-time students have a full academic year. So starting in October and then submitting in early June. Full-time students start, that's their second year of the 18 months, second academic year, start in late September, and then you submit in early March. So, and the final project for the diploma, the part-time students have, so the diploma is one academic year. And the thing about the diploma and the part-time is you're doing a little bit of everything at once. So you really have the full academic year, but mixed in with other parts of the course. But then at the end of the academic year, you really have 2 dedicated months where all the other coursework is done, and you're just focusing on the final project and finishing that off. Modular students in the diploma, if you've chosen the modular format, you're just working on the final research project in module 3. So that's the last module in the diploma. And you basically have 5 dedicated months to work on the final project. So yeah. So just these are dissertation topics, and these are recent ones, just to give you kind of a flavor of what people have done in the past. And we do have lists of all of the dissertation topics. And as I said, you can look at examples of most of these. There are a couple where they're under embargo because the student is publishing the work, basically. But as I said, there's a wide range of different things that people have done in the past. It is amazing to me what people come up with, and it's usually most helpful. I find if students find a record set to work with, and then come up with a question based off of the record set. Often we find that students have a question that they want to answer, but don't really have a sense of what records will help them answer that question. And people get really, really wedded to that. I want to find this out, but there's no records that are available to actually answer those questions, at least not in the time frame that's available. So, but again, we give lots of advice on how to deal with these things. So that was my last basic slide. Oh, no, here we go. There's a few more things to say. Just once you finish, but most of our students do go on and set up their own genealogy businesses. I would say probably a quarter of our students finish either at certificate, diploma, or master's dissertation level. And they're doing it for their own knowledge and skill base, and not interested in making a profession out of being a genealogist. Absolutely fine. There are other employers that do hire genealogists. I mean, it's a great foundation for logical thinking, planning research, writing. It's just, there's a lot of broader skills that come as from being a genealogist and going through this training. But there are specific companies like Ancestry, ProGen, who have hired now a number of our graduates and are quite interested in hiring more of our graduates. I had a meeting with them about a month ago, and they said, please send us more people. But archives, libraries, and then of course our graduates go on and teach at other universities and tutoring groups. And as I said, a lot of our, well, not a lot, but the tutors on the course will mostly have gone through the program. So that's another potential place to get employed. So, yeah, so if you do have questions, please let us know. You can email the administration folks, so Jane and Jennifer are our admins at this email address, or you can email me directly. They'll pass on questions as well. So, right, so let's have a look at the Q&As. Okay, so Bernadette, actually, let me stop my sharing and come back so you're actually not just having to look at this slide. So yeah, okay, so Bernadette's asking, can she get a library card for actual visits to both Strathclyde and Glasgow uni libraries? The answer to that depends on how the university is dealing with library cards and student cards for this coming year. I would expect so, yes. Last year they weren't because of COVID and nobody was on campus basically. But yeah, I think particularly for Strathclyde, Glasgow Uni will allow Strathclyde students in. I think you just show your Strathclyde card and they let you in. You can't check out books from Glasgow though as a Strathclyde student. So yeah, that is possible. Claire is asking about when will we actually be registered. So you need to be what's called rolled forward. So first thing you have to do is do all of the conditions that are set on the application process. So once, if you've got your referees have put in the references and those kinds of things, and you've ticked off all of the conditions, then you'll go into, at some point, what will happen is you'll be rolled forward into registration. And my understanding is that registration started to become open to students as of last week. So I would expect if you do have your conditions ticked off, that they roll forward the cohorts on a rolling basis. So I haven't seen that our genealogy students have been rolled forward yet, but that should be happening soon. So then you'll receive notification that registration is available to you. So then you need to log back onto the Pegasus system, register. You need to pay your tuition fees, or start setting up you can set up installment payments, and there's a lot of information on the Strathclyde website about all of that kind of thing. So yeah, the answer is you should be able to get registered soon. So Vanya's asking about applying for a part-time version and finding you need to switch to a modular due to work commitments. Can I do that? Yes, you can, but it really depends on when in the year that you can, like if it's a certificate and you find out, and certain points of the year it is possible, but basically at a certain point of the year, you're going to be so far through the certificate that you might as well just stay with the part-time certificate, and then you could move to the modular diploma if that's a better fit. So yes, with caveats is the answer for that. So Julie's asking about, do you need to purchase Family Tree Maker? No, because we will be sending out the link to that once you're coming along. So Yes, sorry about somebody's hearing noise. My husband's was, I think, probably moving around at that point in the room. So, switch from the modular to the part-time. So yes, Carolyn, you can switch from the modular to the part-time, but really only at the end of the certificate. So if you did the modular certificate, then you could switch to the part-time diploma. The dissertation is only done in one academic year. So there's basically no modular dissertation. It's a single academic year for that. If you were to, and I have had students actually start the modular and then decide that actually I've got more time than I thought I was going to, switch to the part-time. If it's within the same academic year, so say you did, module 1, I suppose, and then wanted to switch to the part-time, then you could do that. But at a certain point in the year, and that actually happens pretty quickly, the part-time course accelerates way beyond what you will have done in the modular. So there's actually no chance of catching up. And you'll see all of these timetables in the student handbook when I send these out. So, and if you want to switch from between academic years, then basically you have to pay the full fee for the part-time certificate. Anyway, not many students do this. So it's really more if you finished the modular part certificate and then want to go on to the part-time diploma, that's certainly possible. Yeah, and vice versa. So, Bernadette's saying she's got a Scotland's People account already. So if you already have a Scotland's People account, basically what we do is we send you a code and you apply that code to your Scotland's People account, and then that populates it with the 300 credits. So the National Records of Scotland do like students to set up new accounts with their student email account, but that's kind of on an honor system. So, Rowena is asking about how quickly could someone complete the modular version of the certificate. Basically, it's 2 academic years. So you take three modules in each year. So yeah, that's really how quickly. We have had some students take modules 5 and 6 together, and that's really so that depends on when you start the certificate, the modular certificate, because the 1-year diploma only starts in October. So we've had students who wanted to start that in October, but we're kind of on the wrong track on the modular certificate. Basically, they would have a lag. So they took modules 5 and 6 in the April term in order to complete the certificate to then allow them on. So we only allow students to do that, basically if we think they're capable of doing it. And most students who want to hasn't been a problem. So, but yeah, it's basically 2 years. Rowena is also asking, what's the difference between an assignment and an assessment? So an assignment, there's an assignment, which is a pass-fail, and that's what's called a formative piece of work. So those are really bits of work that go along with each of the particular topics that you're studying at the time, they're smaller, shouldn't take you as much time as an assessment, and they're marked pass-fail. So an assessment's a larger piece of work. There's 6 of those through the certificate, and they're marked 1 to 100, and they're summative. So basically, they use some of the skills and knowledge that you've already been assessed through with the assignments, and then really tell you, have I grasped that or not? Craig's asking about, is there access to the locked family search records that affiliate libraries have? Strathclyde's not an affiliate library, so we don't have that access. We were talking a couple of years ago about becoming an affiliate library, but so far that's not come to fruition. So yeah, so no, we aren't able at this point to offer access to those through Strathclyde's library system. So Cheryl is asking, how many part-time students are in each cohort roughly? She's wondering about how many will be starting in October. So for the part-time students, I'm capping the part-time income intake at 40 this year. Last year, I think we had 45 students come in the part-time cohort. So this year I'm capping it at 40 because we have a larger number of full-time students, and we have actually a large number of modular students coming in, and we have a large number of continuing students. So a lot more students have decided to progress from the certificate on to the diploma. So we have a lot of students in the coming year. So we're taking on many more tutors as well. So that's how many you should see in the part-time cohort. There are some students who are coming back from last year who had illness or things that had to pause their studies, and then will be coming back to complete those. So there will be more than 40 students on that cohort. It's just new students coming in. So Bridget's asking about student loans. Can I make payment once Bridget, I think in order to register, you have to make some payment. I am not the expert on that. What I would strongly recommend you do is email one of the emails, the Scotia email, and the program administrators can fill you in on that. So yeah, you do have to make some payment to actually register, though that I do know, unless things have changed massively. Catherine's. Okay. So the part-time version, Catherine, I think perhaps, so the first third of the part-time MSc is the postgraduate certificate. And then the second third, the next 60 credits, is the postgraduate diploma. And then it's the MSc. So that part-time version is called the MSc, but it includes the certificate, the diploma, and the dissertation. So if you want to take the part-time option for certificate students, you need to apply to the part-time MSc. She's asking, would I be able to switch now from the part-time to the modular? Yes, you can. But what I would say is ask to do that very soon, because we're swiftly approaching the limit for students on the modular. So if you do want to do that, you can just email us and ask us about that. So yeah, that is possible. So Alan, yes, there is a suggested reading list. I sent that out to everybody at the 22nd of July for most folks. Other people, Alan, I don't know when you put in your application, but it might be that you applied after I sent out that, and I will just have a look here. See, Alan, actually, if I sent that out to you. But yeah, there is basically, there's a core reading list for certificate, diploma, and MSc students. And then for each of the lectures, there's a larger reading list. And the larger reading list is basically things that we suggest that you might find useful. There's also a great deal of direct links to different record groups and types on the reading lists. And a lot of the reading on those reading lists are things that we've all found useful throughout our genealogical careers. So not necessarily that you have to read them for the course, it's just their suggested reading. If there is a really key reading, then that you should read for the course, we point that out. Most of those either are freely available online, or they come from the core reading list that you you should be buying anyway. So just see here, Alan. I'm just looking to see if you've actually put in a application, Alan. Yeah, no, it doesn't. Yes, I'm seeing you on my list. Anyway, but yes, there is, and we do send that out. So you will have access to that before the course starts. Discounts available to join the Society of Genealogists. I don't think they have a student discount right now, but I could be wrong about that. I am a member, but of course I'm not a student member. But they are going through a big change in how they are approaching their membership. So they might be adding a student discount. Rowene is asking, do we read the books as we go along or before the relevant modules? It's up to you, really. Some of the books are useful and used for more than one of the modules. So yeah, and for the lectures, we actually usually point out the particular chapters that are going to be useful for you to focus on in the reading. So, it really that's up to you. I do know folks who read a bunch of the books before in the summertime before they come on, and some who just dip in and read the particular chapters when they're actually necessary. So, yeah. So Craig's asking, for the group projects, do we try to match people in the same time zones? Yes, we do try to match people in the same time zone. You don't form your own groups. We assign you to groups. I should say the certificate also has a group project, but yeah. So but yeah, we do try wherever possible to put people in the same time zones or close to. It's not always possible. It depends on the cohort. But we do our best with that. So Cheryl's asking about the word count for assignments and assessments. No word count. Well, for some of the assignments, there are word counts for specific areas. Like we might say, 500 words plus or minus 10%. Other things, we don't give you a word count. For the assessments, for the written assessments, so there's A4, for example, is a written assessment. That one, I think it's 2,200 words for that one. For the client report, we don't give you a set word count, though we do suggest that you make it succinct because nobody likes reading a ton of stuff. So yeah, there's the assignments and assessments vary massively. So I can't tell you every single assignment is this word count or assessment. The final project, diploma final project's 5,000 words plus or minus 10%. And the dissertation is 12 to 16,000 words. So Catherine's asking, modular diploma, is that also finished over 2 years like the certificate? No, sorry. I was looking at your second one. Is that completed in 1 year? Yes, it's 2 years, basically. Well, it's a little less than 2 years. So there's 3 modules on the modular diploma, which are 20 credits a piece. So those are largely 5 months long, 4.5 to 5 months. You can take 2 modules in 1 year and 1 module the next year, and then finish those off. If you need to, you can take a term out. So you could take, say, module 1 in October. If you had a really busy work schedule in the spring, you could take the spring off, come back and do module 2 in October the next academic year, and then do module 3 in the March term. So yeah. Carol, yes, a link will be made available to the recording. So yeah. Yeah, Julie, we do have, as I say, the live chat sessions that are just depends on who the group turns up with. I do often hold sort of all levels login chat sessions, just people asking random questions and just having the opportunity to chat. So there are some abilities to do that, but because the course is is planned to be asynchronous, i.e. you don't have to be at a particular point at a particular time, there are limited opportunities for those. And what we do encourage students to do is to set up their own support groups, research, with themselves, which students have been doing certainly in the last couple of years in particular, and have been finding those really useful. Setting up WhatsApp groups and so on and so forth, and helping to support one another, as you would if you were in an on-campus cohort and went off to the pub for a drink or to the coffee shop for a cup of tea. But what we also will offer are drop-in office hours with some of the tutors. So if you do have questions, you can drop in and have 10 minutes with a tutor to ask a particular question, as you would if you were on campus and say your course director had 2-hour sessions in the week where people could just drop in and ask questions. So we'll have those for the coming year. So. Right, that, let's see. Oh, one other thing here. Sarah's asking about the full-time MSc tutorials. Sarah, I think those are still going to be from 3 to 5 on the Fridays. So yeah, the only way that would have changed would really be if because we've got a big cohort of students on the West Coast of America in the full-time course. So that was the only time that I could see of making that work for those students, as well as the UK-based students. So I think, and none of those students have dropped out. So I think that's still happening. So yeah, I think you're going to need to arrange those pickups in advance. But the days shouldn't change. Like the Fridays that are set out, those should stay as they are, unless somebody gets ill. Somebody who's still due to present gets ill or something like that. We might have to reschedule, but rarely happens. So, and if you do run into real trouble, you can always miss 1 or 2. It's stuff happens, but we do want you to be at most of those because they do make up some of the work. So, okay. Alan, you're down as Robert. Okay. Yeah, so I'm not actually seeing any. Robert McIntosh. Is it Robert McIntosh? Sorry, I'm just looking here. I might have you down as. Yes, I do. I did send that out to you on the 22nd of July. I will try sending that again, but you might also check your spam. So I didn't get anything bounced back to me from that. Otherwise, I would have noted it on my spreadsheet. So you might just check your spam filter space, Alan. But I will try sending that again. So I'll do that after we log off. So yeah. So let's see. Great. Christine's asking about if there are any breaks in the academic year for part-time students. Well, you do get a break in the summer. There is a bit of a break over Christmas, but yeah, that's really it. If you need a break, then basically you need to kind of plan ahead when assignments and assessments are due. Maybe get work done early to work in a break for yourself. But yeah. So it's fairly continuous for the part-time students and for the full-time students as well. So, okay, anybody have any other questions? It's just after 5, so we probably need to wrap up soon, but happy to take other questions if you have it. So, and again, if you've got questions that come up to you after the session, please do email, and I will assist starting the welcome pack information to students, hopefully for next week. We're just finalizing some of the marking, but I should be done with that from tomorrow. So I'll be moving over to that. So Craig's asking a few things for you to look out for. So yes, look out for, as you said, the notification of registration into your email. Again, check your spam. And if something hasn't arrived, you can always log on to Pegasus again and have a look at that. But what you should be receiving is emails with your login as a student as well. So your email address and your student login instead of your applicant login. And then once you're registered, so just keep looking out for emails. If you're not seeing emails, then ask. You don't actually get access to My Place until the courses start. So although there is a week before the courses start, there's an induction week where you'll get access to the all levels My Place site, just so you can see. But again, there'll be a lot more of information in that in the welcome packs about those. So, but yeah, just keep checking your emails for registration. Student email information and the welcome pack information. So we'll also send out some information about Family Tree Maker as well. So just getting you ready for Family Tree Maker too. So yeah. So lots of things that will be hitting your inboxes in the next week or so. So great. Well, thanks everybody for taking part. Great questions. When I put together the presentation, I was like, I know I'm forgetting a lot of things. So it was really good to have all of the wonderful questions from y'all. So Sue, you will get the registration emails first, because in order to pay the fees, you have to register. So you have to, it's paying as part of registration. So so you will get the emails about that first. So okay, anything else really quickly here before I sorry, there was a chat thing I just noticed as well. Oh, Angie was asking on the chat about, is there a graduation ceremony for our program? Yes, there is. Certificate students don't have a formal graduation ceremony. They're available for diploma and master's dissertation students, and hopefully we'll be coming back to physical graduation ceremonies very soon. So yeah, the university's got a lot of students at backlog for that, but they do happen. Yeah, for part-time and modular students, those are in November. For full-time, they're in July. So yeah. Nothing fun has been. Okay, I will send that again, Robert. So, Alan, sorry, I've gotten you written down twice now. So we'll send that again. Hopefully it'll come through this time. So, okay, well, great. Well, thanks everybody for taking part. If you do have other questions, please just email us, and we'll do our best to answer and pass on to other folks if we don't know the answers. So great. Well, we're looking forward to having you on the course. If you do want to change from part-time, modular, whatever, before the courses start, please do let us know as soon as possible, so we can move you around. That's important so that I can get tutors assigned to students, and so I know how many tutors I need for each cohort. So that would be really helpful. Great. Okay. Well, we'll see you all soon, and we'll be in touch soon with the welcome pack information. So, all right. Take care, everybody. Bye.